Good evening.
Ganguly.
Good evening.
Graham Hudek.
Good evening.
Let the record reflect that Segrist is in attendance. Slavens.
Good evening.
And Snyderman.
And I'm in attendance also.
Thank you. Can we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda, please?
So moved.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Snyderman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from 12:12 and 12:19:23?
So moved.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Berninski. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Okay, can I have a motion to pay the bills?
Madam Supervisor, I motion that we pay the bills.
Support.
Motion made by Treasurer Slavens, supported by Trustee Snyderman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Okay, now we will have the public comment on agenda items only, and then at the end, we have a public comment for general items. So we're going to start with agenda items only, public comment. You can go to the podium if you'd like to speak. Please state your name and what you're calling for. Okay. This is our youth advisory group.
Hello, my name is Miles Supri.
My
Can
name is
you-
Ali Hussein.
Is the microphone on? Sorry. Can you guys,
Or bring it closer.
bring it a little closer?
Hello, my name is Miles Supri.
My name is Alia Hussein.
We're from the Canton Youth Advisory Council. The council has reviewed the request and developed the following questions for the presenting directors.
Our first question would be to Mr. David Norwood, Municipal Services Director.
I'm sorry, we still can't hear you. If you could get closer to the microphone. There you go. There you go. Speak right into it.
Our first question is for Mr. David Norwood, Municipal Services Director, for Agenda Item 1. So how will the rezoning affect traffic patterns and potentially affect travel time to school and extracurricular activities? And are there any anticipated economic benefits for the youth job opportunities or increased tax revenue benefiting schools and activities?
The next question is for Mr. John Lefevre, the Community Development Director, about Agenda Item G2. How were these programs chosen? And are they serving groups that would most benefit from these programs? And how are participants selected?
Our third question would be for Agenda Item 8 to Mr. Chad Bogg, Director of Police Services. Are new guns being acquired to replace old equipment, or will they be in addition to existing equipment?
Thank you.
Thank you. So the Youth Advisor Group has submitted some questions, and next we're going to be having a joint study session with them to talk about how we can do some different things in the future with them. But thank you for your questions.
Hello, my name is Pat Williams. Do you still do addresses or need addresses? Okay, 7241 Wade Bridge, Canton, 48187. I'll be extremely brief. The concern that I have with the agenda item regarding the future attorney for Canton Township or Canton Council is I take exception with the potential 5-year guaranteed contract. No other employee in the township has that. And if I've got bad information and that's not part of it, I apologize. But if it is included, I would ask the trustees to please treat all employees equally and not guarantee a contract to any individual for a period of time. And then lastly, question, Supervisor Hudak, I did watch the last meeting. If you do a wage review study or study session on wages, will there be adjustments made based on the actions of last month? And I don't expect a response. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Anyone else in the room for agenda items only?
Dan McCausland, 328 North Haggerty Road. Item, I don't think this has an action item, but it's resolution of the wastewater. And item 1 on the Top Golf. rezoning. After last night's planning commission, it's clear and evident that we are being very neglected over at the Lots Road corridor. The folks that are working very hard to bring the Top Golf development are running up against a lot of hurdles. Ourselves, the same thing across the street, running a lot of hurdles. If you read this here, it just shows we're going to be impacted by a lot of water coming down the creek, which runs through all of our properties. I just want to know, as a community, what are we doing? What are we doing to mitigate the damages that are taking place over in the Lots Road corridor? You know, everybody's standing here looking for private dollars to solve public problems. We should be putting public dollars into that area. The last public dollar to go into that area was Phil LaJoy paved the road. We did not get any sewer system. We did get a skeletal water system that's not being used by one customer. So here we are, again, folks are scrambling to bring development, quality development to this community, spending their own personal dollars, business dollars, investment dollars, to try to solve the problems of this community. So we should be focusing, earmarking dollars. Where is the taxation? Where's the DDA money going? Where is the road bond? Why are we not focusing on that part of the area, which was correctly labeled years ago, the desolate zone? And that's really what it is. And these folks are working really hard. So was us for the last year. And we both walked out losers last night. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Good evening, I'm Ann Conklin, and I live at 43856 Cherry Grove Court, East Canton, and I'm here just to support the deputy supervisor position over a 5-year term. Many of you know I had the privilege and the honor to serve in Canton Township, and as a director at the time, I thought it was important to have an administrator at that time and was always an advocate for it. And for it to cross political terms is important because it provides the continuity that is needed for a government organization of this size. And I think that this board has a very aggressive and very good strategic plan moving Canton forward, and to have somebody in that position that crosses the political terms is extremely important. And I think the person that's in the position right now demonstrates the importance and the value because of all the good that's happened in the last 3 years in this community. So I support your initiatives to do that.
Thank you, Ann. Anyone else in the room? Anyone online? Public comment on agenda items only. You can raise your hand electronically for public comment on agenda items only. Okay, I don't see any. All right, public comment on agenda items only is closed. Our next item on the agenda is a resolution.
Madam Supervisor, I move that the board adopt the following resolution opposing the Salem Township application for wastewater treatment facility on Fellows Creek. Whereas Canton Township borders Salem Township and is downstream from the proposed Salem Township Urban Service District wastewater treatment plant. Whereas this proposed sewage plant will discharge 840,000 gallons of flow each day into the Fellows Creek, which runs through Canton Township and into the Lower Rouge River. Whereas the discharge of this treated wastewater to the Fellows Creek headwaters will have a detrimental impact to the stream's water quality by altering its flow regime, water temperature, and geomorphology, which will affect the benthic macroinvertebrate and fish populations present in the creek. Whereas the Salem Springs project would create additional impervious surfaces in the Rouge watershed and increased stormwater flows, sedimentation, and non-point source pollution associated with the stormwater runoff could also negatively impact Fellows Creek water quality and also increase the potential of downstream flooding. Whereas the proposed sewage facility may increase the likelihood of compelled discharge of untreated wastewater into the Fellows Creek, which may contain various contaminants, including pathogens and chemicals that could pose health risks to anyone who comes into contact with the water. These contaminants could lead to gastrointestinal illness, skin infections, and other waterborne diseases. Whereas during the early hours of August 24, 2023, Canton Township experienced a historic flooding event that resulted in both a Wayne County and Canton Township declaration of a state of emergency and a Wayne County health advisory due to the compelled discharge of untreated wastewater. Whereas significant annual rainfall events are up 42% in the Midwest since the 1950s, and higher groundwater and lake levels make drainage even more difficult. Whereas the Fellows Creek is the largest drain in Canton Township with over 14,000 houses. And whereas Fellows Creek runs through the downtown development district and major commercial corridor, Ford Road, in a community with a taxable value assessed at over $4.8 billion. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Canton opposes the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy proposed permit for the Salem Township Urban Services District wastewater treatment plant, and instead encourages Salem Township to work with surrounding communities on an alternative solution. And further resolved, it is not the goal of the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Canton to stop development in Salem Township, but rather to address wastewater in the most economical and environmentally responsible way possible for the residents of both Western Wayne County and Washtenaw County, which could include sending the water directly to the Ypsilanti Community Utilities Authority where it could be treated.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Borninski. Any discussion on the board, or questions or comments? Stephen?
Yeah, I was wondering where we are in the process, or where they are in the process. Is this something that they're deciding on in the near future?
So right now, there was a judgment against running the pipes across Superior Township down to Ypsilanti. And so Eagle is looking at creating a wastewater treatment permit for them. So they're supposed to have a public hearing in Salem Township. The date was put out there and then it was pulled back. So we're waiting for that open hearing to happen, and then Eagle will have an open town hall meeting on this, where we will submit this.
Okay, so that's the next step for them, and the action we take tonight will be input to that
Correct.
solution. Okay, thank you.
I just am grateful that the board is considering this resolution. When I heard that the development in Salem Township was not going to be able to go through Superior Township, and instead was proposing to put a wastewater treatment facility at the head of the Fellows Creek, I became very concerned, because when we talk about what happened in August and we talk about the flooding that occurred on Ford Road, what I don't think most people realize is that was literally the flooding of the Fellows Creek. And I can only imagine what that would look like with an extra almost 1 million gallons a day of water in it. I think that the amount of damage to the commercial property on Ford Road would increase substantially. And then I think, I can only imagine those 14,000 homes that are on the Fellows Creek having an extra 840,000 gallons of water pumped into their basements, destroying the things. I mean, it's challenging. People routinely come to this board every time we look at a development, and they ask us to talk about the trees. They ask us to talk about the drains, things that we can't really regulate under Michigan law. What we can do is tell Eagle that we are concerned about the environmental impact and the community impact of what that development would do if they discharge 840,000 gallons a day into that creek, which starts at the tip of Canton Township, the northwest corner of Canton Township, at Ann Arbor Road and Napier, and goes all the way down to Fellows Creek Golf Course, which is over by Michigan Avenue, and then out the community. It literally zigzags or runs a diagonal across Canton Township and touches more people's lives than any other drain. I am concerned. I know Plymouth Township is looking at potentially closing the door to letting Salem into Watua, which is our Western Townships Utility Authority, which would be one avenue that they could send their wastewater in a more environmentally friendly way. I am concerned that they want to make that more difficult, because I would hope there are alternatives that we can go through if the development is going to happen. I do think the worst-case scenario is building that wastewater treatment center. Because again, when you have power outages, when you have flooding, you have what's called an involuntary discharge, and we say there's a release of pre-treated wastewater, which is a really pleasant way of saying sewage. And that would be sewage that is released in front of 14,000 homes. That worries me. And I think that that is, of all the things we will discuss tonight, the single most important thing we will be discussing.
Anyone else? Comments? So I met with the Army Corps of Engineers with John Salmi and Dave Norwood and the deputy supervisor, and we're having them do an evaluation of our community for drainage. And the city of Dearborn is doing the same, and also Gliwa, our water supplier, is doing the same. So we're coming up with a letter of intent right now to figure out how much that would cost, but this would also be part of the puzzle. And as Clerk Seeger said, we do have some wastewater treatment facilities in Canton. Many people don't know about it. It's on Joy and Haggerty, and then there's another one on Michigan just north of Haggerty. And so, Michigan and Haggerty, I'm sorry. And so basically what that is that's the Watua. So we're in partnership with Canton Township, Plymouth Township, and Northville Township. And what we would like to do is even suggest that as an alternative, and have them expand our capacity versus going into our streams and building another facility. If they did that, it would be approximately 4.1 miles from where they are, where they want to put the wastewater treatment facility versus coming down Napier, which would be another 14 miles. But either way, a wastewater treatment facility is something we want to avoid at all costs. So we want them to look for other alternatives, and we're hoping to push, this is why this resolution is important, to push them to do that. Want to say something?
Just getting ready to vote.
Oh, I don't know, Dave, if you wanted to say anything else based on our meetings with Army Corps of Engineers or just our wastewater treatment facility?
Based upon the floods that we had, last summer, we are looking at everywhere in the township and seeing what we can do to avoid those in the future. And eventually, it will be a regional approach to deal with these drainage issues. This is one of those issues that are regional, and I appreciate the board taking this action. I hope we have further discussion with the developers and with this project so we can put this in the right place and not down Fellows Creek. We do not need it down Fellows Creek at this point in time.
Great, thank you. All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. So when they open up the hearing, we can take a resolution to them. Can I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Madam Supervisor, I move that the board approve the consent calendar as presented. Item C1, consider payment by account for the Lower Rouge River Trail pedestrian bridge deck replacement. C2, consider approval of the resolution for the WCDPS 2024 annual permit package for work within the Wayne County right-of-way in 2024. C3, consider application for the 2024 annual MDOT maintenance permit. And item C4, consider approval of an application for MLCC, or Michigan Liquor Control Commission, special liquor licenses. And item C5, consider approval of payment to Airgas for oxygen and tank rentals provided in excess of the 2023 blanket purchase order.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Treasurer Slavens. All in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. All right, we'll move on to the general calendar now, but of course the PDF is not happy, so let me log into this again. Item G1, consider first reading of an amendment to Appendix A, zoning of the Code of Ordinances regarding Top Canton LLC conditional rezoning.
Madam Supervisor, my PDF crashed.
Yours
Give me
did too.
one moment.
We're crashing.
Do you want me to read it?
Super excited when we get to a board packet that is connected. I move that to introduce and hold a first reading of the proposed amendment with conditions to Appendix A, zoning of the Code of Ordinances, the Charter Township of Canton, as provided in the attached ordinance and conditional rezoning statement of the conditions of planning application, of the subject planning application, which rezones 5 parcels located on the north side of Ford Road between I-275 and Lots Road to C3 Regional Commercial and Central Business District Overlay, as the proposal meets the standards of sections 27.07 and sections 27.06 D4 of the zoning ordinance.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Treasurer Slavens. The applicant proposes to rezone with conditions 5 parcels located on the north side of Ford Road between I-275 and Lots Road from C4 Interchange Service, C3 Regional Commercial and Corporate Park Overlay District to C3 Regional Commercial and Central Business District Overlay is permitted in Section 2707 of the zoning ordinance, parcels as listed. The subject site is about 31 acres. The applicant proposes to retain the existing multi-tenant commercial building that includes the tile shop and construct 2 fast food drive-through restaurants west of the existing multi-tenant commercial building. Fast food drive-through restaurants are special land uses in the C3 district, which may also be approved through the Planned Development District process. The applicant has concurrently made a separate application for a PDD that includes the 5 subject parcels and 1 additional parcel to the north. Director Dave, do you want to add anything?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I don't have anything to add. I'll let you know that the community planner, Patrick Sloan, is also here to answer any questions you might have.
Patrick, do you want to add anything?
Nothing to add at this point, but I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay, great. Any questions? Stephen, go ahead.
Just, I don't want to start,
Oh,
but
I'm sorry.
I think we should screen share on this one.
Okay, I'm sorry. So Summer Foster is our liaison to the Planning Commission, so could you give us kind of a summary of what happened
Well,
last night? Sorry.
so there has been a lot about this development in the media, and I expected a lot of residents to actually come to the Planning Commission meeting and provide their input on this development, and we didn't really have very much. The McCauslins did come and express support for the project, but one of the things at the Planning Commission that we did talk about was the traffic, both leading up to the complex and within the complex. We also talked about the wetlands and the preservation of green space. I will let the developer answer any questions that you have in regard to that, but that's mostly what the comments from the Planning Commission centered around, really heavily around the traffic and wanting to know if there was another access point.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So Stephen, I put this up. Is this the screen you want to look at?
I'm sure there's many that we want to look at. I didn't want to start. I was just suggesting
okay,
while we were
okay.
talking together that
Well, go ahead and start. Oh,
we can.
Yeah.
Tanya, did you want to start?
Yeah.
Sure.
Is the
you
developer
guys are being
here?
so nice to each
Yes,
other.
he's here.
Okay. So I had a few questions on, based on the Topgolf, like this is going to be the second one in the state. And do you have any restaurants around your Topgolf in Auburn Hills? I did my research and I didn't see anything attached. Do you have anything there?
Not current, I'm sorry, Steve Robinson with Broder and Saxe. Thanks for having me. I don't think there's anything. I think there's one vacant parcel next door to the Auburn Hills project, but I don't know what's going on with that property.
Okay, yeah, so I think my biggest concern is like why, because if it's just Topgolf, there's like so many other things attached to it, like you're doing a hotel where we have 5 hotels in that area. And my concern is also that you're putting in so much pavement. I made, based on how many parking spots you have, 733 additional parking spots. So I'm concerned about, the drainage, because we had, as you know, last year we had big floods on Ford Road and where the stormwater is going to go. What are you doing about, you're trying to put in a different kind of pavement for the parking lots? Is there any plans for doing that?
I mean, as far as alternative, like permeable pavement or something, we have not proposed permeable pavement. I can tell you that through this process, we've gone through a number of different iterations as a site plan with staff. I think that at the last planning commission meeting, not last night, but in December, we talked about that we've reduced the amount of asphalt that was originally proposed by over an acre of asphalt that we've reduced through narrowing of parking spaces, narrowing of drives. We land bank some parking spaces so that, that we can, hopefully, if we don't need them, we never build them. So we've done a lot of that type of work and really focused on reducing the impacts. That's been a big push for us since the beginning.
Yeah, and I was also looking at the different public benefits that you have over there. You're planning to put some high-level easement for the conservation. And is there any plans of do you have plans of building any sidewalks on the north side, the Warren Road area, because your project extends till Warren Road?
We've looked at that with Planning Commission. I believe that one of our conditions is to continue to look at that. There's a lot of grade differential. There's limited access, federal highway limited access issues with where we can attach and where we can't attach. So I believe that that's still an open issue that we're working with the Planning Commission on. We're open to it. We just don't have a physical way, I believe, identified to make it happen.
And I can expand on that one. That one is specifically the frontage along Warren Road with the parcel that's near the golf facility. Is a lot of that is the right-of-way from I-275, and there's a guardrail along most of that frontage, which is restricted access. And then just south of that guardrail, there's a very steep grade down to the property. There's a sidewalk termination on the south side of the bridge across I-275, and directly underneath that bridge is the I-275 trail. So we're still working through our engineering division and with MDOT in terms of what potential pedestrian access is feasible for that area. So at last night's Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the preliminary plan development district, which will come before the Township Board next month. And one of those conditions was to defer an action on the pedestrian access along Warren Road to final PDD review in order to allow those discussions to take place to see what the feasibility is.
Okay. My next question was I don't know, I have never been to a Top Golf, so you're golfing where the balls go to. Is that like a regular golf course surface, like grass?
Artificial. It's artificial turf.
It's artificial, so you're removing a lot of, actual greenery, and you're putting an artificial surface. That's a big concern that I have over there. And so when does it close at 11 p.m. in the night? The facility.
I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared. I don't have the hours of operation.
So is there a plan to shut off those big lights? Because I drove by the Top Golf. I've not been to there. I was just going to Great Lakes Crossing, and I drove by the Auburn Hills one a couple of weeks ago, and there is a lot of light there. So there are neighborhoods, there are apartments, and of course there's the freeway. So is there a plan to switch off the lights like that? Would that something after 11 p.m.? Because anyway, keeping lights for the whole night is also a wastage of electricity. Yeah. So that's another concern that I have. So if you can take these concerns, these are my concerns that I have for this project.
And I have a follow-up question for that as well. Regarding the lighting, in the Plan Development District, there were some proposed modifications from some of the lighting standards where the ground level illumination was within the ordinance requirements and standards, but the above ground and how the range itself is lit up, there were some modifications from the lighting standards of the ordinance. And so in last night's Planning Commission meeting, another condition of the recommendation for approval was to defer a decision on the lighting modification to the final PDD to allow us to do a little bit more analysis with lines of sight and nighttime illumination. So as part of that analysis, we'll also look at the hours of operation and the nighttime hours.
Okay, those are my concerns, and those are my questions, but I also have concerns. I understand that we are moving from a C4 to C3, and that allows for, I had a long conversation with Patrick, and he gave me more information about the different kind of zoning, and for basically C3 was for having the drive-through restaurants, and C4s kind of allow for gas stations, and like, maybe we don't have gas stations there, but I have mainly 4 concerns. My first concern is having just a traffic light right after you exit on the northeast side of 275, and immediately having a traffic light. There are 3 consecutive traffic lights in less than half a mile distance, and how much congestion that could cause. My second concern is, where is all this storm water going to go? And, we are removing 30% of the wetlands there. So is there a concern from there that we are going to, we had a discussion on Fellows Creek. So that's my concern is, is this going to lead to more flooding? And the next one is the glare that I just had, because there are apartments on the right side, and my concern also is on the northeast side is like, do the residents have the amenities? I would be open to having some sort of a park there, but that's it's a private land and it's being developed, and you have come to us for the rezoning purposes, but those are my 3 main concerns that I have for this project. It's a great project, but all the things that connect that, and we are removing so many trees, and putting in artificial turf, that is also a big concern for me.
Summer, did you want to add anything from your?
In the Planning Commission meeting yesterday, Patrick, can you bring, or whoever is controlling it, can you bring up the slide of the, that was up before?
Was it this one?
64?
Yes. One of the concerns that I had, and we talked through it yesterday, was the traffic coming in to the facility and making sure that folks who were, say, going to the Chick-fil-A, if there was a backup for the Chick-fil-A, that they were not impeded from getting to Topgolf or leaving Topgolf. And one of the things that we talked through yesterday was the traffic flow through there and making sure that that there was a plan for that, particularly when the facility first opens and there's more excitement around Chick-fil-A. We also talked about what the opening looked like at other Chick-fil-A restaurants to be able to compare. I think, I think I need to see some more, but I'm fine with what I've heard so far. I do think that Topgolf would be great for this community. I've spent the last several months on the Master Plan Advisory Committee, and I've heard a lot of folks talk about we need some entertainment here in Canton. People are always leaving Canton. I share the concerns about green space, and we talked about that yesterday. But I think that the way this is done, we do preserve it in some ways. And I think, when I think about what we could do in Canton, there's not very many places left that we can do something, and to have something of this magnitude in the community is a positive. So I'm supportive, but as I mentioned yesterday, I want to see more.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, I think, the accounting background of me, I tend to like, so what is the question at hand? Is the rezoning request consistent with the standards we should look at? And to me, that answer is a very simple yes. It is, the C3 zoning district is consistent with what is around that. We have discussed this corporate overlay through the master plan advisory process, and I think everybody hates this and wants this to go away, and I would love to see that happen if at some point we're going to do that. But regardless, to me, the simple question of like, does this meet the, does the rezoning request that is presented before us, is that consistent with the standard we should be using? That answer is yes, and that's very simple. To speak more broadly about the development itself, as an elected official, I'm a pragmatist, right? I live in the world of reality, which is, this is Canton Township. There are no parcels that will not be undeveloped on a long enough timeline unless the government buys them or private individuals buy them and put a conservation easement over them. So if we know development is inevitable, and I know this parcel, and this parcel development has been inevitable, so then when I look at like what the PDD is in front of me, I have some concerns over, I can't wait to see the traffic study. I'm really interested in what that's going to bring about, right? But I also know that I intentionally go east of 275 to avoid traffic and get on 275. So where traffic is densest is actually west of 275, not east of 275. And I also know that Chick-fil-A has been looking at going west of 275. And that's the realm of reality that we all live in, which is that the initial location for Chick-fil-A would have been an abysmal disaster. This is a much better location than what we would have been accepting if it had gone next to Buffalo Wild Wings. That would have caused a substantial amount of issues. An individual pedestrian was killed recently in that area of Canton Township, and that intersection is one of the most dangerous intersections in Wayne County and the state of Michigan. Part of the reason we are putting in a boulevard that some people love, some people hate. That issue aside, when I look at this, I look at that beautiful little Willow Creek, right? I just talked about the Fellows Creek and how great that was. But when I look at the Willows Creek, and this would obviously be something I would be discussing around the PDD, which is a separate legal question, what we're not talking about tonight. I like the conceptual plan on page 64. If this is what the PDD that's going to come forward is, I really think there's a smart move to concentrate the C3 development towards the front, consistent with the existing C3, maintain as much natural forest and natural wetland as possible. I assume a public benefit will be complying with the tree replacement ordinance, if I'm not mistaken. And if that's the case, then we're not talking about logging and removing trees and not replacing them. So that's a huge public benefit that I'm a big supporter of. And I like the idea of going all the way through to Warren Road. Like, that's a cool connector right there that would potentially, because that Lots Road is a little bit congested at times and doesn't have the footprint that I would like. So when I look at I've got some concerns about the PDD, but when I look at, in my mind, how I assumed this area would develop, to me, this as I'm grateful that we're talking about going through the PDD process, because what that does allow the township to do is get those public benefits like the tree replacement ordinance, where we're not cutting down forest, protecting as much natural wetland as possible, because obviously Eagle is going to require them to go through all of the mitigation efforts that any developer is going to have to go through in the state of Michigan, no matter what community they're developing in. So then the next question is, like, does this solve a Chick-fil-A problem for us? Yeah, it sure does. And I'm pretty excited about that. That's a huge public benefit to me, because I was worried about that going in over where it was intended, where it was talked about going into. And then I just think it's kind of cool. So I've got concerns. Super excited to really delve into the PDD process and see what comes through that, the Plan Development District process. But as far as the rezoning, going from a C4 to a C3, makes complete, perfect sense when I run it through the 8-point test that we kind of run these decisions through. So, my
Thanks.
thoughts.
Diane?
I'll just be real quick. I agree with what Michael said. The question right now is rezoning from 4 to 3, which I don't have any problem with. But I do have, we'll see with the traffic study what that says. And I do want to make sure that we do maintain some green space. So those are very important to me. Thank you.
Stephen?
It's not on again. Thank you. Question for Patrick. In terms of nailing down the public benefit, do we have to do that before we actually rezone? Or are we just relying on that TOP will be a good partner going forward?
The public benefit is something that takes place along with the PDD. So the conditional rezoning agreement won't have the benefits, the definite benefits in the conditional rezoning agreement. That'll be in the PDD agreement. In the conditional rezoning agreement, it will have some items in terms of restrictions on any uses, and there are some uses listed there that would be prohibited in that conditional rezoned area.
Okay, yep, thank you. I guess we should answer the question of our students, which was about the traffic, I believe. And so I think what's that, Summer?
I was just going to say that we did get the traffic study back.
Oh, we did.
And, yeah, before the Planning Commission meeting, and there were some conditions placed on the approval of the PDD based on the traffic study, but we did get it, and I guess you will all see it when you get the PDD.
Okay, so more to come on that, I guess, that you'll all see. And in terms of the traffic flow for Chick-fil-A, will that be part of the PDD or other parts of the planning process?
That will definitely be part of the PDD. And one of the items well, the traffic in general will be. So there's a proposed traffic signal there at the entrance. And part of the evaluation of the PDD that's ongoing is the traffic movements of Chick-fil-A. So much farther northwest of the Chick-fil-A along the main drive, there's a little cul-de-sac area put there I think it's about 1,000 feet to the northwest, where if it's something like opening weekend or high volume, instead of cars trying to pull into Chick-fil-A and backing up on Ford Road, they will have to have their employees direct traffic farther northwest to that cul-de-sac to turn around and line up so that traffic continues to move. If in the event that traffic exceeds the distance to that cul-de-sac, then traffic would have to continue going northward to the hotel area and potentially the Topgolf area, depending on how many trips come into that site. But we've been evaluating that for the last few months as part of the PDD, and I think we're in a pretty good place with it now with that cul-de-sac area there, but it'll be something for further discussion with the Township Board and the Planning Commission as the PDD process moves forward.
It's probably better that we open Chick-fil-A before we open Topgolf, if that's the case, have opening weekends. And is there, right now what I'm seeing in the area in the middle is just untouched. Is that going, will that be in the PDD that it will remain untouched?
There's language in the PDD that, and I think on the plan also, that refers to a conservation easement. So the terms of that could be negotiated through the PDD as well. In some of the analysis that was submitted by the applicants, they have a pretty detailed wetland analysis, I think, starting on page 236, or at least a map on 236 showing the evaluation of the wetlands that are there. They also have a floodplain analysis that's included in the plans that looks at the hydrology, both upstream and downstream. And they also have a tree and woodland analysis that's been submitted. And along the Willow Creek in the southwest corner, there's floodplain there, but there's also some of the highest quality wetlands and woodlands on the site in that area, most of which are being preserved in that area. So that's something that they've done a lot of investigation on, something that we've reviewed fairly thoroughly, and we're going to continue reviewing that as part of the process.
Okay, just two more questions. One is on the water retention or water plan, can we look at if permeable concrete or hardtop is necessary to ensure the environmentals here? And I heard you talking about the questions that you have about lighting for the Topgolf area. And will that include effect on the residents in the area?
With the lighting The residents to the west, we've evaluated that. There's another parcel between the Topgolf and the apartment complexes and the residents to the west. And then to the north, I don't think there are any residences on the north side, but we'll look at any lines of sight from residential buildings. One of our major questions was about the lines of sight from 275 and Warren Road itself, where there may be some light visible there in terms of seeing the facility, but one of the questions that we have is just how intense that lighting would be at the right-of-way and if there would be any issues of glare to be concerned with.
Okay, I lied. One more question. Is there any enhancements or benefit to the trail, 275 trail?
With the connection to the trail itself, one of the definite benefits that's proposed is at the Chick-fil-A, which is the proposed fast food restaurant on the west side of the site. They do have a trail connection there. They have some parking that's allowed for trail users. So if somebody wants to use the trail, they can use some dedicated spaces in the Chick-fil-A parking lot to connect to the trail. They also have some proposed bike parking and a bike repair station as part of their proposed definite benefit with their PDD. So in the early stages, when we started discussing the development with the applicants and the PDD and definite benefits, one of the things that we emphasized was trying to do something that would enhance the connectivity to the trail. And so they made those proposals as part of the PDD in terms of not just a connection point, but also a hub where people could park and use the trail.
Thanks.
Yeah, Kate?
Thank you. And I want to thank Stephen because my computer decided to crash. So that is why he and I have been kind of looking like we're chatting, but really trying to figure out, what page we need to be on. But I share the concerns of my colleagues, especially about the environmental impact of this and the traffic and lights. So I'm not going to go into that more. You've heard what they had to say, and they said it well. I am a little concerned about what I have heard in the past about the corporate practices of Chick-fil-A, and I just want to make sure that businesses coming into Canton know that we're a welcoming community and that we have a non-discrimination ordinance. And so I'm a little concerned about them coming in, and I will say that I do love Chick-fil-A, but I haven't been there in years. But that's my main concern. I would be much happier if it were a different restaurant just because of what I've heard of in the past. And I, honestly don't know what this particular location will be like as far as their business practices, and I hope that they will be welcoming also.
Okay, thank you.
I just had one final
Anya?
comment. Yeah, so I share, I just wanted my colleagues to speak before, like I am going to vote yes on this rezoning, but I would like you to take our points or our concerns to what we have raised about the environmental issues or the traffic issues or the lights and things like that, and put that into your PDD when it comes up.
Thanks. Okay, I just want to say a few things. So a couple things. As we said, we're here to vote on moving to C3 and PDD. I just want to add a few things based on some of the comments. So right now, we know that drainage is an issue in Canton and the surrounding region, as we spoke about. One of the things that we know in Canton is that past practices of building houses closer to creeks than now has caused some issues. And a lot of the laws and environmental direction has changed on that. And so we do realize that Eagle is a lot stricter when it comes to wetlands. And Patrick, I understand whenever we look at developments now, they really look at the drainage and they make sure that, could you explain a little bit about the drainage and how that works when they evaluate?
Sure. So in terms of the site itself, the applicants have been to Eagle already with some preliminary evaluations. So they've gotten a sense from Eagle in terms of what the proposed wetland impacts would be, what the mitigation would be. And so with the wetlands themselves, there's over 27 acres of existing wetlands, and there are proposed impacts to 7.9 acres of the wetlands. So for those 7.9 acres that are impacted, I think most of those are regulated and will be reviewed by Eagle, and mitigation would be required. In terms of the stormwater, a couple items with that. First is that there's an expansion of the existing stormwater pond that's proposed north of the multi-tenant building. There may be other stormwater requirements. Stormwater is under the jurisdiction of Wayne County, so it would have to meet Wayne County standards. In addition to that, I previously referenced a floodplain analysis, and that I think starts on page 237 of the packet. And it's also in the last night's Planning Commission meeting packet and the previous Planning Commission packet. So if anyone wants to reference those, the floodplain analysis is there as well, where people can get a sense of the hydrology, what's there, what some of the current conditions are, and potential impacts of the project there. So there's still a lot more evaluation to take place. At the PDD level, our engineering division, they look at it for feasibility in terms of if a site could work. Not necessarily a full detailed engineering review because there haven't been final engineer drawings, but they give a top-level review of it for feasibility. The plans that are proposed by the applicant with the PDD have been designed by a civil engineer. So that's something that they're working towards in terms of compliance. But those discussions on stormwater management will continue through the PDD process, and if the PDD is successful, into the site plan process as well. So there will at least be 2 or 3 more reviews before the Planning Commission and the board, at which point every time there'll be more details in terms of those final engineering.
Okay, could you also explain what happens to any trees removed? What do we do with that? How's that handled with our ordinances?
Sure. So currently, in our tree ordinance, the ordinance allows for 25% removal of any non-landmark regulated trees. And so based on the tree removal that's on the plan, there's less than 25% of the trees removed. So many of the trees that will be proposed for removal will be exempt because they're under that 25% of the regulated threshold. Regardless of the regulated trees, there's a classification of trees in the tree ordinance called landmark trees. And landmark trees are certain species and certain sizes where the impacts are higher, and the replacement ratio is 3 trees per 1 tree removed. And the tree ordinance doesn't give any exemptions for landmark trees. The applicants have provided a woodland site assessment, and I think that is on pages 220 through 231 in the packet, and it's also in the Planning Commission packets that are online as well. And they looked at 3 distinct forest areas of the site, and they did some sampling in some of the areas where there is removal as part of the individualized assessment and the site assessment. Based on those assessment in those key areas, they estimate that there's going to be the removal of 12 landmark trees, which would require planting 36 replacement trees. So that's something where those 36 replacement trees, it's not substantial in relation to some larger sites where sometimes we see it clear cut where there could be hundreds of landmark trees. So with that, with those 36 replacement trees, our recommendation is when we get to site plan review, we'll recommend seeing 36 replacement trees on the site. But that's relatively low for a site this small, and part of it is that they're leaving alone many of those large, high-quality wooded areas in the southwest part of the site.
Great, so basically you're saying every trees, we're looking at replacing 36 more trees on the site.
I love
Or
PDDs.
placing 36 more trees based on that. So so is this private land, any development they sold it to would have to follow the same rules?
Right. When we get to the point of Plan Development District Review, the PDD agreement, that becomes a legally binding agreement that is recorded and it runs with the property. So any conditions of PDD review and approval that we put in the agreement or as part of the plan that is an exhibit to that agreement are enforceable.
Could you also explain what is meant by moving from C4 to C3?
Right. So a little bit about that is the C4 district, they have different levels of intensity with C3 and C4. So in some cases, the C3 district is a little bit more intense than the C4 district. The current C4 district, just the district by itself, is a district that only includes a certain number of uses. The C4 district, without any kind of an overlay, it allows for gas stations as special land uses, auto repair as a special land use. I think auto repair is a special land use. It allows for drive-through fast food restaurants, but only if it's attached to a principal building. It doesn't allow for standalone fast food restaurants. So the C4 district, it's an interchange service district. It also allows office uses and some retail uses, but there's some pretty heavy restrictions on not allowing standalone retail where it's got to be part of a multi-tenant center. That said, the current corporate park overlay district supersedes all of the underlying zoning uses. So the corporate park overlay is the ruling zoning district, and that corporate park overlay district does not allow fast food restaurants. It doesn't allow gas stations. There's a lot of uses that it doesn't allow. And in addition, every use in the corporate park overlay is a special land use. So when someone comes in with a proposal in the corporate park overlay, all uses are special land uses that have to be approved by the Planning Commission and the Township Board. So there's no use certainty for any applicant that comes in under corporate park. For this site, when the applicants were starting the process and they asked for our recommendation on the process going forward, we recommended proposing to rezone the site out of corporate park overlay and into the central business district overlay, as well as out of the C4 and into the C3. And the reason we recommended that was because of the policies in the master plan that recommend that the corporate park overlay go away and be replaced with the central business district overlay. The central business district overlay is the overlay district that we see along Ford Road west of I-275. So the current master plan policy is that the central business district continue eastward across 275 and replace the corporate park overlay. With the underlying zoning district itself, we recommended going to C3, which would allow for standalone fast food restaurants as special land uses in the district. So if the conditional rezoning is approved for the C3 district with the central business district overlay, it would be consistent with many of the properties along Ford Road west of I-275, and it would be consistent with the master plan. But we recommended doing the zoning before they applied for a PDD, just because we wanted the proposal in the PDD to be consistent with the underlying zoning. So we wanted to have the zoning done first so that the PDD that goes along with it is consistent with that rezoned area. The last thing I'll say about the corporate park overlay is that because it doesn't allow drive-through fast food restaurants, there are no drive-through fast food restaurants in Canton Township on Ford Road east of 275. There's the Starbucks that was approved as a pickup window, and there are that's one of maybe two restaurants that have a pickup window that's part of a multi-tenant building. So as a result, east of 275 on Ford Road with no standalone fast food restaurants, that means all of the fast food restaurants on Ford Road are west of 275. So if someone's driving on the highway, they get off at the interchange, and they want to get fast food, all of them are going west. All that traffic is being pushed westward. So that's intensifying the traffic on the west side of I-275. And when we looked at opening up the east side of 275 with fast food, we didn't take the request lightly, but we did look at, as Clerk Segrist mentioned, that in previous years, a Chick-fil-A was proposed on the west side of 275. There's not a lot of available land there for infill development, and those areas that are available, they're limited in their intensity of use. So we're challenged with trying to find infill pieces along Ford Road west of 275 and trying to not get the commercial area to expand farther west of Canton Center than it already is. So the next logical place that we look at is east of 275 to try to accommodate the demand for uses, try to potentially relieve traffic on Ford Road west of I-275. So that's a long way of just saying some of the evaluations that we've done with the zoning districts with respect to corporate park overlay.
And of course, using the PDD helps us to be part of developing what happens there in terms of community benefit, et cetera.
Yeah, that's correct. It's the plan development agreement and the subsequent plan, if it's approved, become the zoning district itself on that site.
Okay, so I'd just like to say, in answering our questions here, also, this is going to be bringing a lot of jobs also, is that correct? Especially for young people you see working here. What do you estimate happens at your,
Jobs?
yes?
I have it, but I'm not sorry, I didn't bring it with me. I have like 2 hours of presentations for the PDD.
Okay.
So I look forward to answering more of these questions. I won't do the whole 2 hours, but.
That's
yeah,
okay.
I'm sorry.
I can just throw out what I know about what's on the plan on the cover sheet. I think it's page 85 of the packet. There was an estimate that Topgolf itself would have 150 employees. I think that's a mix of part-time and full-time.
Great. And of course, the fast food restaurants and the hotel also.
Can I gotta say, only seeing 12 landmark trees taken down with a development this large speaks to the value of the Planned Development District, the PDD, as a development tool in Canton Township. People automatically think when property is developed, it's gonna be clear cut. If you're putting this much development on those parcels and you're only taking down 12 landmark trees, which means there's gonna be 36 trees when this is all done, that's impressive. That is responsible development, and I don't think people talk about development in a nuanced way, but if you're telling the truth about that, that is very impressive. That is very impressive to only take down 12 landmark trees on a property that large with a development this large, so well done.
Putting aside a conservation area.
Yeah, and the conservation easement, I mean, are you kidding me? That's a huge public benefit. That means that land cannot be developed in perpetuity. In 500 years, that swamp's swamp. That forest is forest. 500, 600, 700 years, that land will never be developed, no matter what future boards want to do. That's a huge public benefit, because it's not currently under a conservation easement now.
Nope, that's right. It could be, anything else could go there. So based on just it being moved from a C4 down to a C3 and PDD where we have input in a conservation area, I agree with this also. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes, and of course, more will happen as more plans come forward and we work with you, but this is just the start. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your consideration.
Okay, item C2, consider approval to accept the out-of-school time learning grant. I'm sorry, G2. G2, consider approval to accept the out-of-school time learning grant.
Madam Supervisor, I move to amend the budget as stated in the budget's implications and account number section of the RBA and accept the out-of-school time learning grant in the amount of $84,197 to be used toward new and expanded recreational programming in 2024.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Treasurer Slavens. In the fall of 2023, Canton Leisure Services, with the help of the Finance Department, applied to the Michigan Department of Education's 23 through 24 out-of-school time learning grants grant. In December, Canton was notified that it was eligible to receive $84,197 in grant funding to expand programs and services for out-of-school programs. Canton's recreation team will be using these funds for new programming such as the Junior Outdoor Explorer and a student therapeutic rec-run coffee shop, as well as expand current services, teen experience camp, one-on-one therapy services, summer camp scholarships, and more. The funds are to be expensed by September 30th, 2024. Based on legal review of the agreement, Canton Leisure Services is recommending to accept the out-of-school learning grant in the amount of $84,197. A budget amendment is necessary. Director LaFever, do you want to add anything?
Thank you. Just want to congratulate the staff for their hard work in putting the application together and being a recipient of the grant. Of course, it's great for the community. And before we get too into it, I want to answer the Youth Council's questions, which were how were the programs chosen and how were the participants selected. So the programs, speaking on behalf of the Recreation Division, were chosen by their priority and who they serve. So we focus on those who are typically underserved in the community, excuse me. These programs are also highly subsidized, so we tend to focus on those to try to find ways to be able to offer the services for the greater good. And then the participants are typically engaged in our programs already. We serve a large variety of participants, both in therapeutic recreation programs as well as through our Block Youth and Teen Center and all the various programs that we offer. So we will be promoting these activities to the community at large. We hope to gain more, and by making these programs more accessible, to be able to draw in more folks who need them. So good questions. We appreciate that.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Kate?
Yeah, just to comment, I think it's great that we got this grant, so thank you for applying and doing a good job on it.
Thanks. Stephen?
Yeah, congratulations. I'm looking forward to the coffee shop. Where will that be? Or is it not planned yet?
We've talked about a few different ideas. We'll be identifying a partner to work with. We've got a lot of opportunity, as we all know, in Cherry Hill Village as we gain a new community space out there. So we've talked about something in that vicinity. The idea of the summit has also been kicked around in the lobby. We know we get over 2,000 people a day at the summit on the park, and so we feel like that would be a great opportunity as well.
Thanks.
Down here? Summer?
I just wanted to echo Trustee Borninski. Congratulations on getting these grants. They're not always easy to apply for, and they make a huge difference to the community, and we're able to do great things like this with it. So thank you for the effort put into it, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nope, great job on the grant. And therapeutic rec, those are our special needs families, and so I'm really looking forward to that. I know there's one in Livonia I've been to, and it's a lot of fun, so I'm looking forward to Canton having one also. Ours will be inside our community, though, our community room. All right, great. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G3, consider approval to accept the urban and community forestry grant.
Madam Supervisor, I move to amend the budget as stated in the budget's implications and account number section of the RBA and accept the urban and community forestry grant in the amount of $20,000 to be used towards planting new trees in community parks in 2024.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Brzezinski. In August 2023, the Canton community faced devastating loss following a tornado that swept across several neighborhoods and parks, during which time hundreds of trees were damaged or destroyed. To increase Canton's ability to replant many of those trees, Leisure Services, with the help of the Finance and Municipal Services Department, applied to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources for the 2024 U.S. Forest Service Urban and Community Forestry Grant. In December, Canton was notified that it was eligible to receive $20,000 in grant funding to replant some of the park trees lost during the tornado. Canton's Parks and Planning Services staff have developed a strategy to plant a total of 100 new trees in the spring of 2024. Director Lefevre, you want to add to that?
Just another great job by staff. Both of these grants demonstrate how fortunate we are to have staff who are passionate about what they do. I always joke that people don't usually choose the recreation profession because they want to get into it for the money. That's just not something that typically happens, but they do it because they care. And just like the last grant, this one was identified as a need after the terrible loss that we had of trees throughout our park and throughout the area. So another huge win for staff. We'll be able to leverage these dollars with our current tree fund that we have to not just replace the trees, but to add more, even going back to our previous development conversation. So really proud of staff on this one. Another great get.
Great, thank you. Any comments or questions? Michael? Tanya?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about this grant. Obviously, I love trees. I believe we're prioritizing Heritage Park and Floden Park or is it Griffin?
Griffin, yeah. Griffin Park.
Okay. All right, well, that's exciting. Those are two kind of blank canvases, parks that could benefit from some more trees. So I think this is fantastic.
Thank you. Tanya?
Yeah, I just want to congratulate you guys for doing such great jobs on these grants. And yes, it's good to have, like, when we have one of the, board goals of having more green spaces. And, we lost a huge amount of trees last year, and your staff actively worked on getting us grant for these trees. It's commendable. So great job.
Anyone else? Kate?
Just what they said.
All right. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. More trees. Great job. G4, consider a request to extend the contract with TDK Advisors LLC.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve the contract extension with TDK Advisors LLC through December 31, 2025 in the amount of $24,000 per year, not to exceed $48,000.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Treasurer Slavens. Let's see. Canton Township continues its commitment to responsible economic development and sustainability as a community with many opportunities for residents and businesses alike. As a still developing, redevelopment-ready community, it is critical that Canton continue investing in economic development. Especially vital is the investment in Canton's main economic arteries, Ford Road, Michigan Avenue, and Cherry Hill Village. Economic development supports emerging markets in Canton and southeastern Michigan. These include technology, business, healthcare, bioscience, mobility, and advanced manufacturing. By continuing to position Canton well for redevelopment, economic development services, which foster business growth, continue to support Canton's tax base. TDK Advisors LLC has provided Canton with economic development consulting services since May of 2022. During this time, and with Tim Key's guidance, Canton has emerged as a leader in the Michigan Avenue Innovation Network regional project and continues to make significant strides in Cherry Hill Village and Ford Road development. These immeasurable contributions will continue to serve the Canton community for years to come. Director LaFever, do you want to add to that?
Just anyone who's met Mr. Keys or been in the room with him during a meeting knows that you don't get through one without him adding a huge benefit to the meeting, dropping a huge nugget for us. He's been great for Canton, especially as we kind of get into the economic development side and new positions and new folks and new places. Tim's invaluable. He was instrumental in Aerospace Link, who was here last month. He made that connection for Canton, so he's helping us be at the forefront. And I can't say enough for what he does, and I know a lot of us here feel the same way about the guidance that he provides us on a weekly basis.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Tim is great, and whenever we're in a meeting, like you said, we will be talking Airspace Link. We're assessing Canton Township right now for drone usage for our businesses, and when he's in the room, he always has great ideas, and he knows who to take you to next. All right, great. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G5, consider approval of a purchase order to OHM Advisors for the engineering, bid documents, and owner representation for Preservation Park.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve waiving the bidding process, amend the budget as stated in the budget implications and account number section of the RBA, and award the engineering bid documents and owner's representation for Preservation Park renovations in an amount not to exceed $169,200 to OHM Advisors.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Treasurer Slavens. Through a combination of funding sources, Canton continues to put its efforts into the Canton Town Square project at Cherry Hill Village. The Town Square project will invest in some of the community's most treasured assets, including the Village Square Park, Historic Arts Factory Building, Cherry Hill School, Preservation Park, trails, public parking improvements, wayfinding, and programming. OHM has played a key instrumental role in developing the Cherry Hill Village project concept. On September 26, 2023, Canton Township approved OHM Advisors to develop a concept design for Preservation Park. The schematic design was prepared along with an updated conceptual opinion of cost. OHM has submitted a proposal to provide engineered drawings, bid documents, and owner's representation for the remodel of Preservation Park located at 500 North Ridge, Canton, Michigan. Staff are requesting the bidding process be waived and to approve a purchase order to OHM Advisors for these services with a total of not to exceed fee of $169,200. A budget amendment is necessary. Director LaFever, do you want to add to that?
Nope, by now I'm even getting tired of hearing myself, so I'll take any questions.
Thanks. Comments or questions? No. This also includes, just in the background information, part of the Preservation Park with the Katie Boyer barn replacement. So there's a lot of great things happening in Cherry Hill Village. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G6, consider approving the payment of the 2023 Fire Department on-site physical examinations.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve the payment of the on-site medical services for firefighter physicals in the amount of $53,346 with funds from the 2023 Fire Department budget.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Borninski. The Fire Department is requesting approval to pay BioCare for on-site medical services performed in December 2023. Basically, BioCare performed on-site firefighter physicals. Funds for these expenses were planned for the 2023 Fire Department budget. So Deputy Director Jamie, do you want to talk a little bit about what these are for?
Really, this is part of our health and wellness initiative, trying to get a physical for each firefighter that includes, it's kind of comprehensive as far as screening for different types of cancers and really establishing a baseline of medical information for each firefighter. This is year number 3 for us, so we're very excited in a lot of the data that we're capturing, and thank goodness we haven't gotten any bad information from the physicals, but it is a great initiative, so we appreciate the support.
Thank you. Any comments, Michael?
Yeah, I have a question. So this is the physicals occurred in December?
Yes.
And the expense is coming out of the 2023 budget?
It is.
So we've already done this.
Well, the explanation for that was that I
I'm
believe
just
that
curious about the,
I believe that the physicals were expected to be paid earlier in 2023, but the invoice didn't come due to scheduling. So we didn't really schedule the physicals until, I don't know, it was like the second week in December. And then there wasn't another meeting for us to get before y'all.
Understand. Okay. Yeah, Wendy, if you can.
I can add a little bit more to that, too. Director Stockline had spoken to me about it. I think there's a little bit of confusion, too, because the board had approved a 3-year contract with this company. However, the grant dollars had only been approved for 2 years, so the intent was to bring this back before the board, and because the contract went before the board, the purchase order wasn't approved, it was kind of a, it just slipped through the cracks, because the board had already approved this company to do this work. We just didn't authorize the purchase order. The budget was there for it. It's just strictly a bookkeeping item.
Okay, and we're not concerned about this from an audit standpoint at any
No.
point? Perfect. All right, that was my only concern. Obviously, I'm not going to vote against firefighter physicals. Wouldn't be
How
reelected.
do we take
I
them
wouldn't
back?
vote for
I don't
myself.
think we can.
So who's this guy?
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G7, consider approving the police academy costs for 2 candidates.
Yep, Supervisor, I move to approve the sponsorship of 2 candidates to the Wayne County Regional Police Training Center starting in January 2024 in the amount of $15,246.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Segrist, supported by Trustee Snyderman. The Police Department is requesting to sponsor 2 candidates to the Wayne County Regional Police Training Center in January 2024. The cost per person for the 17-week basic training academy is $7,713 for a total expense of $15,426. Academy expenses will be submitted under an MCOLS grant requesting full reimbursement to the department, and this is part of our initiative that we're hiring a lot more policemen. Director Chad, do you want to add anything?
Yes, please. Thank you. Part of this also helps with recruiting and retention. We're bringing young folks into the organization in these positions called PSAs, and they're transitioning very well into the police academy. This will be reimbursed by MCOLS under the grant from the state of Michigan, so I believe we have another year of that grant coming through. So that's going to be exciting for us to be reimbursed on the training. So appreciate the support. This puts us at 94. A few months ago, I came before you and we had 79 police officers in the organization. So thanks to the support of this board, we've been able to recruit very heavily and bring a lot of officers into the organization. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments? Summer.
I will just compliment you on doing a great job recruiting more officers and making sure that we have folks in place to protect our community. So thank you for that.
Ditto.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G8, consider accepting a justice grant and associated amendment to the 2024 police budget.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve the acceptance of a justice assistance grant for specified equipment through the U.S. Department of Justice in the amount of $11,426. Additionally, I move to approve an amendment to the 2024 police budget, increasing revenues and expenses in the same amount.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Treasurer Slavens. The Canton Police Department has been awarded a Justice Assistant Grant for specified equipment through the U.S. Department of Justice. The 2023 JAG as listed number, has been awarded in the amount of $11,426.70 for Glock Red Dot handguns. A budget amendment to the 2024 police budget is included in this request should the board choose to accept the grant. Director Bau, do you want to add anything?
Yes, I can also answer the Youth Advisory Council question too. This would replace the current weapon system, the handguns. Part of the business of the police department is a use of force up into using a handgun, which is dangerous. And the risk management component of bringing these types of handguns to the police department is the sighting system is better for target acquisition and sighting, and brings a lot of confidence to the officer. So it's a risk management component where you can minimize the unintended consequences of something hopefully we never have to do again.
Thanks. Any questions or comments from the board? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G9, consider awarding bid to print the Focus newsletter.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve the bid for printing the monthly Focus newsletter with VTech for a 12-month period for $46,080, plus an additional $2,000 to cover any special inserts, and further that pursuant to the bid specifications, the bid may be extended for an additional 2-year period upon mutual agreement of VTech and Canton Township.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Snyderman. On December 28, 2023, bids were opened for the printing of the monthly Focus newsletter. 7 companies bid, with the lowest bid coming from VTech at $3,840 per issue. VTech has printed the Focus for the last 3 years, and the monthly process has gone smoothly on a very consistent basis. The price also reflects moving from a 2-color publication to a full-color publication, as many of us have seen in January. An additional $2,000 is being requested to cover the cost of any special inserts, which are usually requested twice per year. Deputy Supervisor, do you want to add anything to that?
Oh.
No, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
So if everybody's gotten their new Focus in January, and you can see it's a new layout and everything, and
Beautiful.
yeah,
Looks great.
yeah.
I have a question. And this is to Director Trumbull. When we had initially talked about the increased cost for administering the elections, I had talked about doing some public education and potentially setting aside the money for 2 additional focuses that would be election-specific. The board had kind of agreed during a study session to that expenditure. We increased the overall budget to the clerk's office. What we didn't really think about, and what I didn't think about, was the PO or that kind of purchasing process that we would go through. If we're going to do that in like August or for the August election and for the November election, so it's still a little bit of time, would that need to come separately to the board, or would it be possible to do it? I mean, from a budget standpoint, it would come out of the clerk's office, but is it, I mean, I've never, I don't know. I don't know.
I think you could do it either way. I think you could amend the motion to increase it for 2 more mailings right now. If you average, if you think the cost is going to be the same per month as the Focus, so I think you could do it either way. I think you could amend the motion to include it for 2 more months with the cost coming out of the clerks, or we could do a separate RBA later, whichever your preference is.
I'd prefer to amend the motion just because I would rather do today than not put off to tomorrow what I could do today. Would it be appropriate for, can the PO hit an account in the clerk's office, or, okay.
Sure.
So can I amend the PO?
The motion?
Or add a second motion to it, to add for the equivalent of 2 months of what that.
Is the board comfortable with that? We've already budgeted those funds. We talked about it at a public meeting last year. What this is really just is increasing the PO.
Yes, I'm getting a yes.
Yep.
So it's 3,840, and then amending it to,
So what's the episode, so is it 20, it's 11 or 12? 12,000 each issue?
7,680? Just double it?
Oh, really? always thought it was about 10K a mailing. All right, good stuff.
2,840 per issue.
So I would recommend doing the first motion, do one motion for what is in the RB, and then add a second motion to add what you would like to, for an
Okay.
amount not to exceed in the clerk's department. Would probably be easier.
Sounds good.
All right, so all those in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. We'll add a second motion.
Man, I don't know, I'm in the weeds. Maybe I'll just handle this at a different meeting. Sorry for that.
That says it's $38.40 per issue.
Yep.
Can I just move that we add 2 clerk issues for $38.40 per issue? Is it in this calendar year
I
or
will support that motion.
in 2024?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Motion made by trustee Snyderman, supported by clerk Segrist. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G10, consider request to approve contract of the deputy supervisor and chief counsel.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve the employment contract and related budget amendments included for the deputy supervisor and chief counsel.
Support.
Motion made by clerk Segrist, supported by trustee Snyderman. Beginning in May of 2022, the deputy supervisor was appointed chief counsel of the township, adding to his responsibilities as deputy supervisor. This added a number of responsibilities to the deputy supervisor's position. In addition to his statutory duties as deputy supervisor, he now handles legal matters for the township and directs the legal work in the township with outside counsel, including labor and employment counsel, prosecution services, general township legal counsel, and the police legal advisor. This additional workload creates efficiencies between legal and administrative services in the township. Since the deputy supervisor began the additional workload of chief counsel, he has taken a backlog of 11 cases down to 4, which languished on the list for years, with 5 long-time cases closed in 2023. In addition to directing external legal work, the deputy supervisor's workload also includes internal contract creation and contract review before signature, thereby saving external legal costs of at least $14,000 per month or $162,000 per year. The legal work accomplished by the deputy supervisor has also saved the township the expense of adding an additional internal corporate counsel for the previously budgeted amount of $160,000. This contract is an annual cost of $23,800, including all fringe benefits for 5 years, and this is an appointed position that would go with myself as the supervisor. Any questions or comments? Diane?
I'm going to make a comment with all due respect. At a prior board meeting, we had a salary increase, and I was against that. It was proposed and approved. I voted against it. We've talked about a salary study. I know that's supposed to happen in April, and so I would prefer we hold off on this, so I will be a no vote.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, so this board, oh, sorry, go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Supervisor. First, can you answer the question that was posed earlier? It's not a guaranteed contract, is that correct? There is a severance and provision in it?
Correct. So it goes with me, it's an appointed position, it's not a merit position. So the deputy supervisor works for the supervisor, now he's legal counsel also. And so basically let's say if I pass away next year, then the deputy supervisor's position's also ended at the same time. It goes along with myself. So 5 years is for my hopeful term.
Right. And if you're not the supervisor in the future for other reasons as well?
Correct.
Okay. And I would say I'm in favor of this. We've seen great progress in terms of the caseload. It is absolutely something that this position was not hired for. It's an additional responsibility. And I think the community has benefited from that fact. I still think that our overall payroll is either close to or still below what it was 4 years ago. And I think it's important that we continue to operate this way because I think it's been very successful.
Thank you. Anyone else? Michael?
Yeah, I'll just, speak to, I think the contract itself, to my knowledge, with the exception of Mr. Keys, we only have, a few other contract employees in the township, right? Individuals who aren't a member of a union, aren't in the merit system, but then also aren't an elected official as well. And so I think the creation of the position of deputy supervisor was semi-controversial in the community. I do know the previous supervisor who spoke at public comment was vocally opposed to doing the position, and it indicated that, he did not require the position. I would posit that that position has been warranted for quite some time, that a community of this large has needed a position, a non-elected individual with government experience, legal experience, financial experience, helping guide it, like you see in almost all communities with about 100,000 residents. Canton is the 9th largest community in the state of Michigan. To have the person who got the most votes being the CEO of a multi-million-dollar organization is an interesting concept. So I think we have a really cool blend here in Canton Township, and I think that the deputy supervisor allows that. I do think it's, in order to attract individuals and a talent, I think a contract where we have a multi-year contract with the opt-out option is the only way to provide enough security to attract qualified individuals for that position. So I do think it's in the long-term best interest of the township itself. So all those things aside, super grateful for I think the energy and the amount of work that's occurred in the last couple of years, the last 2.5 years. When you look at you can look at it from the legal budget standpoint, and that's not something I focus on because strategically, I like the supervisor's office being able to kind of 1-2 punch, both run the administration building itself, but then work with the outside individuals. And that's evidenced by the fact that we have received record amounts of money from the federal government over the last 2 years that we have not seen in Canton Township. We have received records amount of county money in the form of the Cherry Hill Village project, but also in the form of roads money, and also an exponential record of appropriation from Lansing, right? I believe we were at around, I think, either 15 or 17 million dollars that we received of our tax money back from Lansing last year, which dwarfs the $5 million that Mr. LaJoy brought back 7-8 years ago. That in and of itself shows, $22,000 is nothing compared to the $17 million we brought back from Lansing, and I don't think we could have done that without this position, the individual in this position. On top of that, the year prior, we brought back $5 million from Lansing for the complete tear out and rebuild of Canton Center Road, which was a joke. And the county had tried to fix it in 2017, did about a half measure. Everybody looked at it as this big, an example of what government doesn't do well, right? We tried to cut out bits and pieces and piecemeal it for about $2 million, when what we really needed was a $5 or $6 million solution. We went after it, we got it. We secured $5 million from the state of Michigan and a $3 million appropriation from Wayne County. After decades of complaining about the county, wondering where our money is, we got that money. We brought it back home. So I'm not one to be penny wise and pound foolish, and I love that statement. Because if you count your pennies, if you focus on what the small, minute costs are, you may be missing out on millions of dollars. And so I'm glad that we as an organization have chosen over the last 3 years to not be penny wise and pound foolish. And what we have seen is record budget surpluses. What we've seen is record fund appropriations from our 3 partners, both the federal level, the state level, and the county level. And objectively what that means is more trees in Canton Township, better roads in Canton Township, more sidewalks in Canton Township, brand new fire station number 2, and we got money from Lansing for a brand-new fire station number 4 in an area where you currently don't have a fire station. What we've got is we went from 79 police officers, 79 police officers to in the 90s, and I was very concerned about that. We had a huge issue with our trash hauler that has gotten solved, and we are going to be going with a new vendor, knock on wood, shortly, and we'll have more consistent delivery. Good government requires good stewardship, and you can't just pinch pennies. So I'm grateful for this position. I'll be voting yes on this contract.
Thank you. In addition to what Michael said, I'll just like to say, this board was voted in for change, changing what we had, what was before. And as the previous supervisor came, made a comment and left. So I will respond to this comment and just respond to what Michael said. I mean, we've created a welcoming community, supported the enforceability of human rights ordinance, employed an embedded social worker to support our community mental health issues, expanded the juvenile diversion program, increased programming to our diverse community, Diwali, Juneteenth, Pride Outside. We reduced our carbon footprint through the use of hybrid and electric vehicles. We evaluated the negotiating process. As Chief Chad recently said, we were down to 79 police officers. Deputy Supervisor helped lead the team to bring us back up to 94 police officers, and police officers want to come to Canton. Let's talk about the tax dollars that Clerk Seegers talked about, securing $7 million from the state of Michigan to build Fire Station number 4. I mean, we have worked with our partners, our state, federal, and local partners. No more previous administrations that would point out to say, oh, ask Wayne County, ask them, we can't do it. We worked hard with those partners to bring this money back. Secured $5 million from the state of Michigan to fix Canton Center Road down to the base. Secured $5 million from the state of Michigan to fix ASR-affected roads in Canton. Secured $4.75 million from Wayne County to invest in Cherry Hill Village. Secured $3 million from Wayne County to fix Canton Center Road, an additional $3 million. Secured $2 million from the state of Michigan to renovate Old Township Hall into the youth center that we're building. Secured $1 million from Washington, D.C. to build ZB West Park. Secured $750,000 from the state of Michigan to fill sidewalk gaps in Canton. Secured $300,000 from Wayne County for Canton's therapeutic recreation program, $150,000 in 2022 through 24. Secured $75,000 from DWIN to support a therapeutic rec. One smaller grants and awards that you're seeing. We're investing $9.5 million into Canton Township Square, $4.7 million of which is from Wayne County, another $4.7 million from ARPA funds. Invested in the Partnership for the Arts and Humanities to energize Cherry Hill Village. We have record programs out there with wait lists. Improving Preservation Park by investing in the Bartlett Travis House. If anyone's gone out there, you're seeing a lot of repairs happening in those old houses. Building a new pavilion for farmers markets. Paving part of the parking lot and greening the open space. Renovating the corner building at Cherry Hill and Ridge Roads to create a community center in the village. Improving the village square to include water features, improved walkways. Those are just some of them. That doesn't even include the 4 contracts that we settled this year, led by the deputy supervisor and the team. So I think this has been worth it. I think we've brought in a lot more than the previous administration, and I think we have a lot to show for it and a lot more to go. So that's why I am recommending this. Tanya?
Yeah, I just I agree with what Michael just said about attracting talent. In my day job, I work for a different government. I work for the British government's Department of Transport. And today we were having a conversation with our CEO, and it's very hard to attract good talent, and unless we, compensate them for the good talent that we bring into the community. It's not people in the public service and that people come and work here. It's very hard to attract talent without a good remuneration. So it is important that we have people in the leadership level, people at different levels, and we are working. I am working right now into bringing in a good organization to do the study for the merit employees. So it is important that we keep investing in our employees, and that is also one of our board goals. So I am okay with this. I am going to vote yes on this. Contract.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues, and I am glad that Joe has chosen Canton as his place of work.
Great. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion passes 6-1. Great, thank you. All right, next we have public comment. So public comment, I'll look online to see if we have any. I think we have some in writing, don't we? Some public comments?
Sorry, I've got a lot of purchase order approvals to scroll past real quick. Sorry, Wendy's busy over there. Okay, comment number 1 from email. This is from Hasina Abdu. Hasina. I commend Canton Township for hosting We Don't Want Them exhibit at the summit. It is important to learn from our past so that we build communities that are welcoming and nurturing to people from diverse backgrounds. Thank you. And the second item is from Smita Acharya to Supervisor Canton Township and the board. The Indian American community and the South Asian community of Michigan very much appreciate the efforts of Canton Township to be inclusive and embrace pluralism, which is a core American value. We appreciate programs and policies that ensures no ethnicity or group from our American society is left behind in our common pursuit of happiness. Thank you for your leadership. Those are the 2 statements that were emailed.
Thank you. Does anyone want to have public comment here for 3 minutes? Okay. No,
Ever.
anything.
Freewheel it.
Hi, my name is Salima Nawab. I'm a resident of Canton for 5 years now. I just wanted to, I read in the last newsletter that we have the exhibition that was just mentioned in the email on display starting this Friday, I believe, for maybe 10 days or something. And I just wanted to say that I'm very proud that Canton made the effort to bring this display here. I'm actually a homeschooling mother and reading the book Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry with my upper elementary, middle school children. And that book changed my life because as a 10-year-old, I saw a lot of disparity in our society. I experienced it myself, but I didn't really understand and it wasn't articulated to me, but that book just opened my eyes to what has happened in America and what I was witnessing growing up in the 90s. And I'm so happy that we're actually having our book club on Friday, and I can take my children to just see what has happened in the housing history of Detroit. I grew up in Chicago, so to bring them to an exhibition to see that with their own eyes, I'm very grateful that there has been effort. The timing is perfect for us, and I just wanted to thank the board and all those that were involved to do these kinds of efforts to show us our history, so we do not forget, you know, what has happened, the pain, the suffering, the history, the trauma, so that we can be mindful of these things as we just go through our day-to-day and make better decisions in the future. So thank you so much. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Next.
Hey, I'm Dan McCausland again, 328 Hagerty. You know, I've been here this is my 43rd year here, and I've been a business owner for 37. I don't want you to take this wrong. I think you've done a lot of good here. I've said this over and over. From the previous administrations, I think you've done a lot good. But I think we gotta look at a few points. As this community builds out, it's gonna take a collaboration of all of us. That means engineering, planning, roads, DPW, the county, MDOT. Because people want to complain about the traffic. Traffic doesn't really bother me. We're a town of convenience. You know, we could be anywhere in this town within 10 minutes. To really any business, it's really kind of on the map, right? I talk to people all the time. I said this last night. I have a friend of mine lives in Houghton Lake. It's 45 miles to go to Myers, one way. 90 miles round trip. I just couldn't accept that. You could be at Myers in 10 minutes here, right? So we have a really good mix of convenience, of business, to go to the airport. And yeah, you've done a lot. But I'm asking you not to have to do it all, but have to help us some, because as these properties, just like with this Chick-fil-A, you'll see how much more challenging it is in 2024, cost-wise, regulation-wise, application-wise, to bring that development than it was in 1994. You know, just stormwater retention itself is into the millions, right? Where before they dug a hole, they dug a pond, they lined it, and that was it. Those are still going on because they were at that regulation at that time. So it's the last in is paying the most. So this is what I'm saying. I'm not trying to disparage you that you're not doing anything for us or anything else, or anybody, because sure, people are going to say about traffic. Traffic's always going to be. When you have a community of 100,000 people, you're going to have traffic, right? It's how it's managed. So if it's managed correctly, do you want to trade off the convenience for the traffic or the traffic for the convenience? That's what I tell people all the time. So if you want to leave 5 minutes early and get to Myers in 15 minutes, is that better than 45 miles? I would say yes. So what I am trying to foster here is how can we get these...
One more minute, Mr. McCausland.
Okay.
You like me to warn you, so I'm warning you.
Thank you. How do we get these collaborations started for the business and the private community? So when these developments come in, they're not having to go to these excesses. Just like the gentleman said, he's got a 2-hour presentation for his next level. That's a little extreme. That should be more set, where that system is more streamlined. That's what I'm saying. But I'm not saying you're doing a bad job from the previous administration. Just so we make that perfectly clear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, anyone else?
Hi, everyone. I'll keep mine brief. I'm Tyler Grable, 1438 Heritage. My wife and I, we moved here 3 years ago. I've lived in 5 different countries. I've lived in 4 different states, and I am proud to call Canton my home. We have a 2-year-old son. We just bought our house in January, and we were impacted by the flooding, so I'm really glad to see the board has taken that seriously. The tornado went over our house, took down a tree. As I said, I'm glad the board has taken the weather and the environmental stuff seriously. With the 2-year-old son, I'm very glad to hear that the police department has went from 74 police officers up to 90. And I have noticed that in my own community, it has definitely felt safer. Less packages have been stolen off our porches. Less cars have been broken into. So just to echo what everyone else is saying, I think it has been, the last 3 years has been great since I've lived in Canton. So I just want to thank everyone for a great job.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Miller?
I'd like to touch on a few issues tonight that was brought up. On the sewer plant from Salem Township. I've worked around the Detroit sewer plant, heavy construction.
Could you speak into the microphone? Sorry.
So how that sewer plant, most of them work, the big tubs they have there, when it rains and they can't handle it. This happened in the Detroit River when I was working down there. Guess what? They had a slaughterhouse and they brought in a bunch of cattle, took care of them. Everybody's flushing their toilet, and guess what? The gates couldn't handle it. Let the Detroit River have it. Eagle, you guys really think fond of it. Your dump over there, 25 acres on Hannon Road and Michigan Avenue, it flooded. They had 3 vacuum trucks, and they couldn't keep up. They're supposed to have a retaining pond like some of these facilities do, and I've had Eagle tell me it's insignificant. It was insignificant when the Ford's parking their vehicles there and they're going to flood. Let's see how good it goes with Ford. Now let's get back to some of these ditches. I've been complaining for years around here, and the county has money, and you had money this time, but they never got cleaned at Palmer Road and Sheldon Road, some of these areas. Ditches that drain to nowhere. Let's go to Myers over there, the first one on Ford Road. Ford Road and Canton Center, there's no retaining pond there. It was built years ago. Why isn't there a retaining pond? And it's basically maybe giving up some of that parking lot, so that will help some of the flooding problem. Now, let's go on to a couple other things here. I'd like to know on Van Born Road from Canton Center Road, I've complained about it, all the way to Hannon Road, there's more trash on Van Born Road there than there is in the dump. I'd like to know what the county and you guys are gonna do about it. I've complained many times, and for the last 10 years, every other week up here, about the ditches being cleaned over there on Palmer Road. Flooding, they drain to nowhere. They used to have a program, the township, to clean that. Now the county does. Evidently, the county doesn't want to do it. I'd like to know what the county does besides collect my taxes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room? Okay, we have one online, Vijaya. Vijaya, go ahead and talk. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi, Anne Marie, and all the Canton leadership. Congratulations on getting the funds for our schools as well as for the trees. Thank you very much. And as everyone echoed, thank you for making all of us belong here. And the third one is, again, about the floods. I know when the last flood happened, even our car got all flooded and then we had to let it go. Thanks for working on that. So let's focus on the Canton's diversity, environment, and health of all of our citizens. Thank you again.
Thank you, Vijaya. Now we have Anam Shah. Anam, go ahead and speak.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes. Sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Anam.
Okay, I just wanted to echo what the people before me have said regarding diversity and inclusion in Canton. It's what makes our community so sought after. It's the reason so many people want to move here. It's one of the reasons that our schools are so great. What makes a community is not the sidewalks. It's not our water filtration or sewage systems. It's not a Chick-fil-A or a Topgolf. It's the people. And so I'm truly thankful that we have a board of trustees that's also working so hard to make sure that everyone in our community feels included, and to make sure that we are actually learning about the context and the history of the people who live in the communities here. So just wanted to say I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anam. Anyone else online? I don't see any more hands online. Anyone else in the room? Great. Okay, public comments over. Thank you very much. Now we move on to staff comments. Any events coming up? You can start down there with Director LaFever.
Just want to plug a great program we have scheduled for Monday for MLK Day. It'll be at the Village Theater from 6:30 to 8:30. So we really encourage the community to come out and honor the day for what it is celebrated for. We've been working with the Plymouth Canton Schools. It's a great partnership. We have got a great lineup, and it'll be a really worthwhile evening for those to come out and enjoy.
Thanks. And in the morning, the kids can go over at 9:30 to make signs for Martin Luther King if they want to make signs and do a peace march.
At the Summit on the Park.
Yes.
Right? Yep.
Thanks. Anyone else? No? All right, we'll start with board comments. Kate?
Just thankful that the huge snowstorm didn't come today, and also want to say go blue.
Stephen?
All night I've been not pushing my button there. No, I just would like to say everybody stay warm. Winter has finally shown up.
Ann?
And Happy New Year. This is our first meeting of the year, so Happy New Year to everybody. Looking forward to a wonderful year. And I just want to compliment our employees. Over the holiday, we had a box out asking employees to donate undergarments for the Plymouth Canton Community Clothing Bank. A lot of people are in need, and nobody thinks of undergarment, but it's important that, especially our young kids who are going to school and gym class and that, you know, that they have clean clothes and undergarments. And so they were kind enough, and we were able to collect quite a few undergarments, both for boys and girls. And yesterday, the clothing bank picked them up, and they'll be distributing them to many of the students in the community. So I want to thank our employees for participating in that.
Thanks, Tanya.
Yeah, I want to wish everyone a happy New Year, and I'm wearing my maize and blue today for Go Blue. And as you know, we have the Village Arts Factory. I'm starting my first pottery class on Thursday, so I'm very excited about working with Cherry Hill Potters Guild.
Summer?
It was great to have the Youth Advisory Council here today and kick off our meeting and ask some really great questions about our agenda. I would love to see more of that in the future and see how we get you more involved with township government. So I'm looking forward to our joint study session, and the MLK Day event on Monday sounds great, John. Hope you have a great turnout.
Michael?
People keep saying "Go Blue." I don't understand. Did something happen recently that we should be talking about and celebrating? I'm teasing. Outside of obviously the fact that the best
We can see your
football
tie.
team- Yeah.
Even I, way down here, can see your tie.
Yeah. So that's good news. No, as the clerk, we're having some fun times right now because Canton voters are currently participating in 2 elections. Some voters in Canton Township, predominantly voters who live in the southeast portion of the township, are currently having a special election to fill the state representative vacancy. That election is January 30th. Turnout from an absentee ballot standpoint is pretty low. So if you're a resident of Canton and you live in the Wayne Westland School District, there's an election going on for you, and your next state representative will be decided in the primary on January 30th, and then the general election for that will be April 16th. And then, for a first time in Canton history, we are running our second election at the exact same time, which from an administrative standpoint is extremely challenging and a unique challenge for my office. We are really enjoying it. It's testing our organizational skills. But voters should have, if they are on the automatic application list for a ballot, should have received a ballot application for the February 27th presidential preference primary. And that's where both political parties are picking their champion to fight in November. And so if you want to participate in that, if you want to vote a mail ballot or an absentee ballot, make sure that you fill out that application and return it to my office. You do need to indicate political party preference on that ballot. People get weird about that because it only happens once every 4 years. We don't know how you vote, but you do have to indicate which type of ballot you want. And then on top of that, there's 2 local questions on the ballot. For voters who live in the Plymouth-Canton School District, there's the renewal of the non-homestead property tax millage rate, which is that 18 mills that applies to non-residential property. Most of us don't pay that, but some people in the room do pay it. Topgolf will be. And then you also have a tax question for the Van Buren School District. So voters in that southwest portion of Canton Township, there's a tax question on that ballot as well. So lots of fun activity. That election is happening February 27th. The special primary is January 30th. And for the February primary, we're gonna have our first dry run of early voting. We're gonna have 9 days of early voting. That's pretty exciting. So if you're somebody who says, I like the convenience of advanced voting, but I don't really feel comfortable voting by mail because I don't want to give you my ballot. I want to put it in the tabulator myself, but I don't maybe want to wait in line on election day. You can vote in person early. You can pick when you want to vote. And we're gonna do early voting that 9 days prior to election day, starting Saturday, 2 Saturdays before the election, and we're gonna do it at 2 locations. The first location is the Summit on the Park. So big thank you to Leisure Services for partnering with us on that. And the second location is the Village Arts Factory, which is gonna be in Cherry Hill Village. So big thank you to the Village Arts Factory for helping partner with us on that as well. So 2 early voting sites, 2 options. Take it for a dry run. I haven't picked out how I'm planning on voting yet, but you got 3 options. You can vote on Election Day, you can vote early by mail, or you can vote early in person. And we're busy. Yeah, we also, we do passports, but we've suspended passport activity until February is over. We're not doing passports just because we're stretched pretty thin in the clerk's office. So if you want to make an appointment for a passport, we'll get that started in, oh, my brain's not working. The month that comes after February is March. March. Thank you.
Sure.
So Clerk Segrist just reminded me of this, but my 18-year-old just registered to be on the permanent absentee voter list because he is a college student and he will be absent from the community on Election Day, probably all of the election days. So he registered to be on the permanent AV list. So I was very excited to help him do that.
Anyone else? Great. So thank you, everybody, and see you in Martin Luther King events. So can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Treasurer Slavens. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.